Hello, history buffs, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're journeying back in time to the final frantic days of World War I, to a battle so immense, so pivotal, that it would ultimately break the back of the German war machine and help end the Great War. We're talking about the Meuse-Argonne offensive, the largest and deadliest battle in American history. Imagine this. It's late September 1918. For 4 long, brutal years, Europe has been ravaged by the war. The Western Front is a seemingly endless scar of trenches, mud, and barbed wire. Millions have already perished, but change is in the air. The German Spring Offensive, their last-ditch effort to win the war, has failed. Now, the Allies are ready to launch a massive, coordinated counterattack across the entire front, a final push known as the 100 Days Offensive. The American Expeditionary Forces, or AEF, under the command of General John J. Pershing, were assigned a crucial and incredibly difficult section of this grand plan. Their objective? To smash through the dense, heavily fortified Argonne forest and cut the vital German railway line at Sedan. This railway was the main supply artery for a huge portion of the German army on the Western Front. Severing it would cripple their ability to fight and force a retreat. Simple plan, right? Well, the terrain was a nightmare. The Argonne forest was a tangled maze of ravines, thick woods, and steep hills. For 4 years, the Germans had transformed it into a fortress. They had built multiple, complex lines of defense, honeycombed with machine gun nests, artillery batteries, and deep concrete bunkers. They called this formidable network the Hindenburg Line, and they believed it was unbreakable. General Pershing knew the cost would be high, but the stakes were even higher. The fate of the war hung in the balance. On the morning of September 26, 1918, a thunderous artillery barrage, one of the most intense of the entire war, erupted along the front. Over 1 million American soldiers, many of them fresh, inexperienced doughboys, prepared to go over the top. Their mission? To advance through hell itself. The first few days were a brutal awakening for the American forces. They advanced, but the cost was staggering. The German defenders, veterans of trench warfare, used the terrain to their advantage. Machine guns, hidden in concrete pillboxes, swept across the no-man's land, cutting down waves of attacking soldiers. Artillery shells rained down, turning the forest into a splintered, desolate landscape. The American units, many fighting in their first major battle, struggled with coordination. Units got lost in the dense woods, communication lines were constantly cut by shellfire, and the mud, the relentless, sticky mud, made every step an ordeal, bogging down men, horses, and even tanks. Yet, they pushed on. Sheer determination and courage fueled their advance, yard by agonizing yard. They fought for every trench, every pillbox, every ridge. This is where legends were forged. Stories of incredible bravery began to emerge from the chaos. Take the Lost Battalion, for instance. Roughly 550 men from the 77th Division pushed too far, too fast, and found themselves completely surrounded by German forces. For nearly a week, they held out against overwhelming odds, with no food, little water, and dwindling ammunition, refusing multiple demands to surrender. Their heroic stand became a symbol of American grit and resilience. Then there's the story of Sergeant Alvin C. York. Initially a conscientious objector who didn't want to fight, York found himself in the thick of the action. On October 8th, while leading an attack on a German machine gun nest, his small patrol came under heavy fire. With most of his men down, York, armed with just a rifle and a pistol, single-handedly charged the enemy position. Through incredible marksmanship and sheer audacity, he took out the entire machine gun crew, captured 4 German officers, and convinced another 128 soldiers to surrender. His actions were so extraordinary they seemed almost unbelievable, earning him the Medal of Honor and making him one of the most celebrated heroes of the war. These are just 2 examples among thousands. Countless acts of individual courage, most of them lost to history, defined the American experience in the Meuse-Argonne. The battle was a meat grinder, but the relentless pressure from the doughboys was starting to crack the formidable German defenses. Week after week, they inched forward, their resolve hardening with every casualty. By mid-October, the character of the battle began to change. The initial shock and inexperience of the American troops had given way to hard-won battlefield knowledge. They became veterans in the crucible of combat, learning to coordinate infantry, artillery, and the newly emerging air power more effectively. General Pershing replaced some of the more exhausted divisions with fresh troops, maintaining the momentum of the attack. They had breached the main positions of the Hindenburg Line and were now fighting through its secondary defenses. The German army, on the other hand, was on the verge of collapse. They were suffering from severe shortages of men and supplies, and morale was plummeting. The constant, grinding pressure from the Meuse-Argonne offensive, combined with Allied attacks elsewhere on the front, was simply too much to bear. German soldiers began surrendering in larger and larger numbers. The unbreakable line was broken. In early November, the final phase of the offensive began. The American forces launched a powerful new assault, and this time, the German resistance crumbled. The advance accelerated dramatically. American troops surged forward, finally breaking out of the ravaged forest and into open country. They captured key strategic heights, and, most importantly, on November 7th, they reached the hills overlooking the critical city of Sedan, placing the vital German railway hub within range of their artillery. The strategic objective of the campaign had been achieved. The main supply line for the German army was cut. The German high command knew the war was lost. With their armies in full retreat and revolution brewing back home, they had no choice but to seek an end to the fighting. On November 11th, 1918, at 11 a.m., the armistice was signed, and the guns on the Western Front finally fell silent. The Great War was over, but the victory came at a terrible price. The Meuse-Argonne offensive lasted 47 grueling days. In that short time, the American expeditionary forces suffered over 120,000 casualties, including more than 26,000 killed in action. It remains the deadliest battle in United States military history. The sheer scale of the loss is difficult to comprehend. The Meuse-Argonne American Cemetery, located near the former battlefield in France, is the final resting place for over 14,000 American service members, the largest U.S. cemetery in Europe. Each white cross represents a life cut short, a story ended in the mud and chaos of the Argonne forest. The battle was a brutal, bloody affair, but its impact was decisive. It demonstrated the industrial and military might of the United States on the world stage and proved the courage and tenacity of its soldiers. The relentless pressure applied by the over 1 million doughboys in the Meuse-Argonne was the final blow that shattered the German will to fight and brought an end to the First World War. It's a somber but crucial chapter in history, reminding us of the immense sacrifices made for the peace that followed. Thank you for joining me on this deep dive into the Meuse-Argonne offensive. It's a powerful story of courage, sacrifice, and the brutal reality of war. If you found this video informative, please hit that like button and consider subscribing to the channel for more explorations of pivotal moments in history. Don't forget to ring the notification bell so you won't miss our next video. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, stay curious.